I now recognize Ms. Dean from Pennsylvania.
Hi, thank you, Chairman Kane. Thank you, Ranking Member Keating, for holding this important hearing. And I thank all of our witnesses for giving us your expertise and your experience with what is an incredibly troubling issue here in the United States and letting us know more closely what is going on in Europe. I represent suburban Philadelphia. These issues are extremely important to me and to my constituents. I care deeply about doing everything we can to call out anti-Semitism, as you so eloquently pointed out, because it is a horror in and of itself, but what it does as a precursor to other acts of bigotry and violence is so very troubling. I was wondering if maybe, Rabbi Cooper, you could take a look at pre-October 7th, post-October 7th, and do a comparison contrast United States, Europe, if that's a possibility.
Well, the statistics pre-October 7th were pretty dismal on both sides of the Atlantic.
Correct.
And nothing slowed down the violent anti-Semitism in our shores, not even COVID. Not even when synagogues and churches were shuttered. That didn't stop the bigots and the haters and the anti-Semites from those kinds of assaults and attacks. And so when Christopher Wray talks about 63% of the hate crimes targeting 2.4% of the population, he's actually referring to pre-October 7th.
Right.
What really changed on October 7th, which I don't think anyone anticipated, and we're still trying to come to grips with the horror, is two words: yes, but. We've been hearing yes, but on both sides of the Atlantic, shockingly, because as the extent of the brutality, the depth of brutality of October 7th played out. Then remember, the Nazis worked very hard to cover their crimes. Mm-hmm. Hamas was live streaming their crime. It's almost to this day. Yes. I think everyone in this can't speak for everyone, but I would assume we assume that people would say, you know what, the Palestinians have to reconfigure what it is they want and what commitment they're going to make to a peaceful future, because what we saw is outside the bounds of humanity. Instead, we heard yes, but. And the reference was made to Spain, to France, where you had, I think, 90% of Jewish students in French universities before October 7th having experienced anti-Semitism. But the change in terms of on the ground in Europe, it's unleashed, I think, pent-up hatred against the Jews. And in this country, led by those who are pushing the Hamas narrative, it's taking anti-Semitism to levels and to depths that we never anticipated.
To depths, such dangerous depths. Ms. Roden Benzaquin, how do I pronounce your name?
Perfectly.
That was okay. I'm a former professor. I taught at LaSalle University in Philadelphia for 10 years, and I was a teacher of writing, rhetoric, argument. But mostly I was a teacher of get your education, get your facts, know what you're talking about. And I'm also about to give a commencement address, and I've been stewing over what to say to these graduates at a local university. I think every one of you spoke about education. What would you say in terms of the importance of education around these issues in order to free us from the ignorance, the veil of ignorance that is so much in the face of this anti-Semitic growth?
Thank you very much. So you're absolutely right. Education is key, and we know, or we've known in Europe for a very long time that we have a problem. Back in the very early years of 2000, for example, there was a book that appeared that was called The Lost Territories of the Republic. And in that book, it was described that in certain schools, the Holocaust could not be taught anymore because students would rebel. Students didn't want to talk about it. In France, Holocaust education is compulsory. They didn't feel that they had anything related to that. So, 20 years later, of course, this problem has only become bigger. So one of the things I think that is key is to explain and show and demonstrate that what happened then is relevant today, and how hate has changed and what it means for people for young students to actually experience it. It's often seen as something that was in the past. It's often seen as something that is irrelevant to them. But when young people understand that what they are currently seeing, experiencing, is not so different than what happened in the 30s, yes, this is relevant. And I think the way we are teaching right now history, the way we're teaching right now Holocaust education, is not doing that sufficiently in Europe.
Not making that connection. I very much appreciate that, and I think we have an obligation as educators to make sure our young people and not so young people know our past, know the world's past. But I think we also have an obligation to call out political leaders who stoke that ignorance, who stoke the language of bigotry, of anti-Semitism. We could talk all day, but I do thank you for all of your work.
Thank you.
I yield back.
May I add something briefly, Mr. Chairman, or not? Is that not permitted?
No, I'm the chair. Thank you, Representative Dean.